Oh, there we go. I see it.
Nice.
I apologize.
Good
I
job,
love
Ed.
technology tonight, right?
I'll have a real flag next month.
All right, so we did the pledge. So now
And we're
public-
recording, Ed?
And we're
Yes.
yes, I saw it come up that we're recording, Mike.
Okay.
And so do we have any public comment? I see we have one guest. You come up as Lisa. You're muted if you'd like. Would you like to have a public comment or not at this point?
No, I don't have any comment, but thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay. Well, hearing no public comment, and we don't have invited guests tonight, I would just like to take a moment and congratulate all of us on the victory of the saying no to the sewer sale, which was great for all of us, and we're all very pleased with that outcome. I think all of us worked very hard in a lot of different capacities, and I think that we put forth a lot of effort, and I think we're all very satisfied with the outcome. To report after the council meeting on Wednesday, Stephanie sent an email to Terry and I saying that she would be in touch in the next couple days or week or so to try to arrange the next meeting and figure out exactly how to move forward with this memorandum of understanding and what the terms would be. So I would anticipate that we would have those terms by our April meeting. Terry, would you think that would be about right?
Yeah, well, obviously we're happy to negotiate and discuss the circumstances with the borough. So we're good to go, is what I'm trying to say.
Yep. Yeah. So, when they reach out to us, we will have a better idea of what everybody's, talking about. I mean, they have our initial, thoughts of the rent and the stormwater management, and they both seemed, to be well received. And now it's kind of figuring that out and then really putting it in the hands of the solicitors, I think. But I think at this point in time, everyone is kind of glad to exhale a little bit and relax and take it easy. So I anticipate an easy and quick meeting. We don't have a lot of big things on the agenda tonight. I don't know if anyone wants to say anything briefly about the sale, but I think it would be nice to kind of let everyone decompress from this month as we have that opportunity. I don't know. Does anyone have anything to say before we move on to the approval of the minutes? All right. Well then, hearing none, let's run through this. Let's see if we can do it while it's daylight. All right. So, does anyone have any comments on the approval of the minutes?
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the February meeting minutes.
I guess I'll second that.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Ramundo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Yes. All right. The motion passes. Is that what I'm supposed to say, Mike? The motion passes? The motion?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Now on to our reports. First report being the financial report. Anyone have any questions on the financial report this month?
I guess I just have a comment when I saw the $11,000 emergency repair. Alarmed, but I was so happy that Fred included the photographs and the description of what happened. That cleared it up. I didn't need to call anyone. Thank you, Fred. That really help the financial report come alive.
All right.
I wanted to thank Terry for following up on the question I had in regards to Rudolph Clark's billing at $20,000 last month. I see we're at 12.5 this month. Some high fluctuations. Terry did break it down saying there was money spent on the potential sale. Gives somewhat of a better understanding, but still some fluctuations even in the data that Terry provided. But I'll follow up with Terry later on that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions about the financial report? All right. Hearing none, does anyone want to make a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $123,501.73?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Also yes. All right, the motion carries. Were there any other questions on the financial report? I think the audit report, if I'm correct, is going to be presented to us in May, if I'm correct. So we will
Yes.
probably have a meeting of the finance committee sometime in April. I'm thinking to kind of go over that with Kathy, or early, late April, early May, to go over that with Kathy would be my assumption.
Yep.
But
We,
at
we
this point,
we can go with that assumption. We are missing the pension piece
okay.
for the audit, so we're waiting on that. But other than that, she is continuing with her audit.
Oh, great. Okay, thanks, Shannon. All right, any other questions on the financial report? All right. Hearing none, would anyone like to make a motion to accept the financial report?
I'll make a motion to accept the financial report.
I'll second it.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Yes. All right, the motion carries. All right, moving on to the solicitor's report.
Thank you. In the spirit of trying to get out of here while it's still light out, I'll just go right to our action items. The first item we have for you this evening is a resolution to release professional service escrow for the project located at 101 Fayette Street. The developer is RIN Restaurants LLC. So if we could have a motion to release, to approve this resolution to release the escrow.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Also yes. All right, the motion carries.
The second item we have is also a resolution to release a professional services escrow for a project located at 130 West 5th Street. The developer is 130 West 5th Street LP, and we would like this to be made contingent upon issuance of the engineer's notice of completion. We would just need a motion to adopt that resolution.
I'll make that motion to adopt the resolution.
I guess I can second.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carl Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
All right, the motion carries. Oops, sorry, missed my line.
That's right. The next item will be stricken because we were going to seek authorization to proceed against the performance security for the cost of the as-built completions for the project located at 3 Colwell Lane, ACL Development. But the as-built were received and Fred's office issued a recommended approval today, so that's been stricken. But we would ask for an authorization to proceed against the maintenance security for unpaid professional fees for the project located at 133 Cedar Avenue. That's MPB Development, in the event that payment is not received by March 31st, 2021. The escrow balance is currently $1,196.61, and their letter of credit is for $1,750.40.
All right, so we need a
So
motion.
this would be a motion to authorize us to proceed against the maintenance security.
Okay, I guess I'll make that motion if we can.
I'll second it.
Jane
I have a
Flanagan.
question in regard to that. Can you give us a little explanation on why they haven't paid your fees?
They're delinquent on their professional escrow. I'm assuming they posted originally. I'm assuming they posted originally, and that the fees from Fred's office and my office exceeded what they originally posted, and they are delinquent and haven't paid those fees.
Yes, so the deed of dedication, they tried to do the deed of dedication and it fell through because it already changed the owner's names. So they had to go back and re-record the deed of dedication in the new owner's name.
So the only thing I'm confused with is if there wasn't money in escrow and you proceeded with work, that's the part I'm having not quite understanding. I thought the policy was if they don't have money in escrow, we don't do the work.
Well, I believe there was enough in there until that confusion where the transfer of the home went in before the transfer of the sewer pipe extension. So at that point, there was enough money in there. But then when I guess it had to be re-recorded. That's where he went over.
Okay. So in terms of us, are we at risk if you proceed on this?
At risk in what way?
I believe it's already done.
What do you mean it's already done?
Has the deed been recorded for the dedication for the sewer pipe? Does anybody know? Lauren?
It's been sent for recording. We are waiting for the proof of recording back from Montgomery County. Excuse me, there is a backlog with the recorder's deed, so we're just waiting to receive that now.
Good luck. No one hold their breath.
Okay. I just It's a little confusing of a story. I'm not quite sure I understand it. So, why wasn't the escrow updated before proceeding with work? That's the part I'm having trouble understanding.
We thought there was enough in there originally, but like we said, we didn't expect the one deed, the dedication deed, to get bounced back. So had that have gone through before the home transfer, there should have been enough in there. This is kind of an odd occurrence. Doesn't happen. It's the first time it's happened in my short time here, but it usually doesn't happen like that.
So you're pulling the bond on this property, right? Is that the maintenance security?
I think that's a different project, isn't it? It's the same owner for both projects, for 3 Caldwell and for 133. Cedar, I'm sorry.
But it's not the same. It's ACL in the first and MTB in the second, correct?
Right, right.
Yeah.
I think they're both Tom Jones, though, I think.
Oh.
It could be. He's just naming them after the projects or whatever. So
Did you hear my question, Mike?
which question was it?
Are you pulling the bond on this property?
No, we're moving against the maintenance security,
Which is the security bond? Is that the
which
right
is the letter,
terminology?
which is the letter of credit. Letter of credit they issued as the maintenance security.
Okay. Okay. I don't know enough about this one, so I'm going to, can we table this one?
No, the maintenance bond is expiring at the end of the month.
I'm understanding what happened is that when, and I don't know the order that the deed of dedication and the house deed, right? Is that the two pieces that we're talking about? Do they get sent in by different people? Is my, we don't send in the house deed.
Yes.
We just send in the deed of dedication.
We just send in the deed of dedication.
So
And the deed transferring ownership posted before the deed of dedication.
Exactly. So okay, so Mike, just so I'm sorry to interrupt, but just so I'm understanding this correctly. So we have nothing to do with the house deed. Whoever submitted that for recording submitted that for recording. Generally speaking, we send in our deed of dedication. It gets recorded first. The house deed is recorded subsequent to that. At the time we sent in the deed of dedication and we did our work on that, there was sufficient legal fees, or professional escrow, I should say, to cover Fred's time and Rudolph Clark's time with regard to that item. However, and I'm not going to place blame on Montgomery County, but I'm going to say that I've noticed the county offices have been spotty and slightly delayed in some of their things. And for whatever reason, I'm assuming the deed for the real estate got recorded before the deed of dedication. Consequently, the deed of dedication was bounced back to us, which required additional legal time and engineering time to cover that, at which point that's what made our escrow for professional services insufficient. Am I understanding that correctly?
Perfectly.
Okay.
Well put.
All right.
So is the contractor on the hook for the addition?
I'm sorry, Felix?
Is the contractor on the, responsible for the delay and the deed not being recorded in a timely manner and the changing of the names?
I mean, I can't, Mike, Lauren, I mean, when I record deeds, yes, and if there's additional time that is spent to record the deed because in my practice things get done, then they have to pay me for it. So that kind of is the way it is. Am I, again, correct in that assumption?
They transferred ownership of the property before the deed of dedication was filed. They had either to wait until the deed was filed, until the deed of dedication was filed, and then filing the deed of ownership. Again, I'm not sure 100% whose fault it was about timing wise. Things could have been jammed up or backlogged at the recorder of deeds, but it's certainly not the authority's fault. So the authority certainly shouldn't pay for it. So.
Okay. Thank you, Janine. That was, I appreciate that explanation. My concern is that, we're going after another contractor for additional money that may or may not be his fault. And that's my concern at this point.
Well, it certainly isn't the authority's fault.
But we're authorizing you to sue him.
No, we are authorizing us to get our money out of the maintenance out of the letter of credit. It's exactly what it's there for, when they don't meet their obligations.
And I would imagine that he's going to contest this, and that's why he hasn't paid it.
No, that's why we get letters of credit and not bonds for this sort of information. He really can't contest it. It's a letter of credit. We just go and get our money. That's why we say all the time, we like letters of credit, we get our money. Bonds, we get a fight.
I'm just concerned from the contractor's point of view that he's being requested to pay additional money for an item that wasn't really his responsibility.
Well, it might have been his responsibility. If he sold the property without notifying us properly and in a timely manner that the property was being sold and the deed was being recorded before, because the available information that we had for the deed of dedication listed one owner. And it wasn't until after it got bounced back that we found out that that person was no longer the owner of the property because he recorded the deed.
All right, and I'm assuming that you checked to make sure that he never notified us that the name had changed.
We have nothing, and I don't think Shannon or Ed ever saw anything on the name being changed.
No.
Okay. That's a better explanation. I appreciate everybody's time on trying to clear that up. I know that we have a reputation of going after contractors, and I'm going to make sure that we're doing our due diligence.
Okay.
So
All right. Well, no, I think that's good. I'm glad we're clear on that. All right. So then we're still looking for the motion, right, Mike, to
No, the
Yes.
move
motion,
against the maintenance security for the unpaid professional fees, correct?
Yep.
All right.
you made the motion, Janine.
I did.
Jane seconded.
Okay. All right.
So we have to do roll call. So Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Yes.
And that concludes our report.
All right. Does anyone have any additional questions on the solicitor's report?
I do. Mike, I'm looking through your report and you list East 9th Avenue. Is that still ongoing?
I'm going to ask Lauren to jump in on that one.
Certainly. Yes, there were several property owners, obviously, that signed immediately. And then we've worked with several other property owners. We actually just had one recorded last month. I believe that the remaining property owners, I want to say that there's 3 or 4 of them that have not signed. So the next step, if the board is of a mind, would be to condemn the easements in question. The pipe is already, this is an existing main that was in the back of the property. It's remember we had the issue with a shed over top of a manhole. It's that project.
When did this start? Like 2016, 17?
It was a couple of years ago. I can find out the project start. I don't recall offhand, but it has been going on for a while. And obviously then like I said, we did get several in the beginning, and then it kind of petered out, and we really didn't see much activity for the last year, other than that one that we just got last month.
So how many are outstanding?
That is what I am pulling up right now.
And what do we got to do to put this to bed?
The next step would be to authorize the solicitor's office to condemn the property. We already have legal descriptions, we already have appraisals, so it will be a matter of filing the declarations of taking. So we can prepare the appropriate paperwork for next month if you'd like.
And what does condemning the property mean in layman's terms?
Sure, it could be filing an action with the Court of Common Pleas to confirm the easement. And then we would offer the just compensation that we've offered previously. And then if the property owner was so inclined, they could file a petition with a board of view to have the process litigated and to determine what the appropriate just compensation would be. No one has gotten back to us and said that's not enough money. I think mostly what we've gotten is no response at all.
Okay. And Caldwell Lane easements? Seems like that's been dragging on for a real long time too.
Caldwell Lane, Brad, if you wouldn't mind giving me an assist on that one. I think that was for part of the interceptor improvements.
Yes, that's the interceptor improvements that went across that vacant lot. And then went into the lady who owned the apartments. They were there, and then that actually continues down through and includes the SEPTA easements that we're working on the license agreement on. So I believe that there is 2 private property owners and then a crossings of the SEPTA rail line.
So it looks like we do have the easements for the private property owners. We're just finalizing with SEPTA, which has its own internal processes that unfortunately do take some time to work through. But I know that Fred's office and my office were talking about that last week, actually. So that is moving along.
Okay. Seems like some of those things sit there for so long. That East 9th Avenue's got to be over 5 to 6 years old.
I can have that information for you. I can put together a report for that for next month, and we can.
Okay.
It's a matter of deciding what the board wants to do as far as moving along on that.
All right. Very good.
Thank you, Lauren. All right, any further questions? Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the solicitor's report?
I'll make a motion to accept the solicitor's report.
I will second.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Yes. All right, motion carries. All right, moving on. Fred?
Hey.
The sun is going down.
Yeah. I'll be quick.
Yes, you will.
We reviewed the 2020 Chapter 94 reports last month. We are waiting for some updated information from Plymouth Township to finalize. As soon as I receive that, and I understand that we should be getting it tomorrow morning, we'll include that information, then we'll review it with staff and electronically submit it either this Friday or early next week. It is due March 31st. We found this when we were preparing the analysis of the flow per EDU, the comparison between Plymouth and Conshohocken. That's when we found just some errors in their submission. Nothing serious, but should be updated to be accurate. Second item is the sludge pilot test. It is confirmed to be scheduled for the first week in May. The authority will be renting a generator, so we don't have to worry about temporary power. It's just easier rather than have them temporarily connect into our system to just rent a generator and have them utilize that. Next item is the liner phase 2, which is part of the easements that we need from SEPTA. Really what we've done is we've drafted a letter to ask for an extension to the grant. Our grant would expire in June. And just because of the delays due to COVID, basically it explains to the CFA, which is the Commonwealth Financing Authority, why we've had a delay, primarily due to COVID and the need to obtain these easements. It requests a 9-month extension, and then it authorizes Janine and Carol to be signers on the grant extension, to do that electronically, and provides them, the CFA, with a copy of with their email addresses. And then you'll be notified. I'll also be following up on that, but I think we're looking for a motion to authorize Janine and Carol to be signers of the grant extension, and to authorize Janine to sign the letter and submit it to the Commonwealth Financing Authority this week, if possible.
Yeah.
So I think we need a motion on that, I believe.
I'll make that motion.
Can I second because it concerns me as a signer, or do we have somebody else?
There's no conflict there. You can
Oh.
second it.
Okay, well, Jane did it. Jane did it for me. Thank you, Jane.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith, Janine Riley.
Yes. All right,
All right,
motion
so-
carries.
Yep. So what we'll do is Terry or Terry will coordinate with you, Janine, to get you to sign a copy of that and send it back so we can get that submitted in, just so
All
that
right.
goes through.
Thursday morning, Terry would be good for me. I have
Okay.
a hearing in the afternoon that I believe will take all afternoon.
So. Next item is an update on Freely Square. Because we are so close to the amount where we would have to publicly bid this rather than getting 3 quotes, it was discussed at staff and a decision was made to re-televise the SAGs because the work was done over 4 years ago. And based on the television confirmed the scope of work. And I think Vinny is working on that or has completed that televising of Freely Square.
He's completed it, and he did actually, I think he sent something to Jonathan.
Okay.
He did report that the SAG has appeared to get worse.
Okay. Which is the reason that we're doing that is because we're so close to the bid amount that we don't want to bid it out, waste the engineering dollars to bid it out for 3 written quotes and realize that it's over the requirement for a complete bid that would require a pen bid. So that's why, our concern was, and we didn't want to be subject to change orders because of that SAG getting larger and the scope of work extending. So that's why we wanted to have the most current information. So now that we have that, I'll coordinate with Jonathan of my office, Jonathan Vito of my office, and we'll update the construction cost estimate and get back to the board on the next course of action to resolve this. Next item is the odor control replacement project. Notice of proceed was issued. We are coordinating on a construction schedule. They unfortunately wanted to come in and perform the work at the same time that the sludge pilot test was being scheduled. So we've asked them for new dates that would avoid that week. As soon as we get that construction schedule, we'll schedule the pre-construction meeting. Jonathan, my office may actually already have dates for that, potential dates, and he will be coordinating that. 2 more quick items. Number 1 is 51 Washington. Vinny, when he was doing a routine inspection of the dry sewer line that was extended to their property, did find that the area was, contractor was discharging construction water into it, and therefore had to have it cleaned. It's currently being plugged so that no more water can go down through it. But it definitely had a significant amount of debris laden water, whether it was from their basement or out in their construction. So that will no longer happen now that it's plugged. And the last item is just a quick update.
But on that, before we move forward, is that illegal?
Oh, absolutely. No question.
So what are we doing about it?
Right now we have plugged it. The problem is I don't know what documentation and proof we have other than a muddy pipe of what was done. But I'll leave Ed expand on that. I know he's had some contact with them, I believe.
We're just currently trying to look at everything. We're looking at video and pictures, and I'm just trying to make sure that we know exactly what happened. We don't want to jump into an accusation like that too quickly. So we are aggressively looking into it. So.
Yeah, I would recommend we not get too far ahead of ourselves on this, okay? There may be other factors, and I think Ed is doing his due diligence and going through all the possibilities, and we hope to have a report relatively quickly.
Yeah, and the concern that you have sometimes is you can spend more money trying to analyze the place plan than the actual damages that were done. So that's a cost conscious. It's a risk versus reward, and if there's really no harm to the plant, and they will go out and voluntarily flush it and do the mains before they're allowed to connect, then it may go under no harm. Had we caught them in the act, totally different story. But trying to prove it after the fact is a little bit more difficult at this time, and I'm not sure. Depending on what Ed's report finds, we'll know what the next steps are. But I just wanted the board to be aware that through our routine inspection, we caught this and prevented additional water from coming in or additional mud from coming in that would have a more significant impact on the operation of the treatment plant. And that's the advantage of having an authority that's out there every day, and just observes things like this.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, Fred. I mean, that is well done by Vinny and the crew down there. But the fact is that's pretty illegal. And that's no joke. I mean, I would expect that we contact the authorities and let them do an investigation at the same time, because that's a big contractor down there. They should know better. And that's illegal. Bottom line, it's highly illegal, and we got lucky they didn't do any damage to our plant, but they could have done a significant amount of damage to our treatment center. So I would expect at least a phone call to the police. That's my expectation, but if you think you're going to do an internal investigation and then do something afterwards, that's a different story. That's my thoughts. What do you recommend, Terry?
In fact, I guess
That's what I asked Terry.
what
What's your
you're trying to
recommendation?
I just first I want to agree with Felix. I had a certain reaction when I was first told what was going on. And it was very similar to the way you're expressing things right now. However, how can I say, we have a pretty good idea of what we believe happened, okay? At this point, there's absolutely no way to prove it. I'm going
to interrupt you there, Terry.
Sure.
They have job site video cameras down there. So I know that contractor videotapes his site. So there's tapes out there of somebody doing something. And I don't think we're going to have access to any of those tapes without a police report.
Well, I'd be willing to go down that road if we can access those tapes. Those would be critical.
Well, I guess I guess I would ask for legal thoughts on this. I mean, I think, Felix, your prior comment is that we, while we have been previously accused of going after contractors and, for some things, and now I think we don't want to jump the gun. I guess, Mike, do you have any thoughts on whether we should proceed with a more aggressive than at least our internal Ed and Terry looking into it further?
Well, I think what was suggested by Ed and Terry was about gathering some more information and trying to figure out exactly what we know or what we can prove might be the prudent course of action down here. Because unless I'm missing something, we have some theories or some thoughts, but we don't really have any proof, and I think we want to be careful about going out and accusing somebody of a crime if we don't have a little bit more information.
Yeah.
I
I'm not,
guess if we need to do something, I guess what I'm thinking of is, as kind of Ed, your investigation, for lack of a better word, but your information, what that yields. I mean, you can certainly report back to us throughout the month if it yields something that we feel we need to move quickly on to get a police, if it can't wait until next meeting. I would assume that
Well,
Ed, both you and Terry would reach out to us.
so it sounds to me like we have a pretty good idea that somebody dumped something into our manhole. Is that a fair statement?
I think it was pumped, probably. It was pumped.
Fred, somebody dumped something into our manhole.
yes.
We're not going to contact the authorities to let them know that somebody did something illegal. And we don't have proof of anybody, but we could get a better investigation. But I mean, I'll leave it up to our solicitor. He knows the law better than I do. What's your recommendation, Mike?
Well, I think, Felix, you've just kind of said what the recommendation is. We think somebody dumped something into our manhole. Okay, I'm game. I'll call the chief of police in Conshohocken and tell him that somebody dumped something into our manhole. I think if we can figure out a little bit more information, a little bit more detail, that might be the prudent course of action before we accuse somebody of committing a crime.
I didn't accuse anybody of a specific person. I'm not accusing anybody, but I do, from what we're being presented, somebody went into the manhole. We're not accusing a specific person, right, Mike?
I don't know. So what you said was somebody dumped something into the manhole. And I think at some point in time, you were talking about the contractor who's down there, and that there are videos down there for that contractor. So maybe I misunderstood. Maybe we're not saying a specific contractor. Maybe you were just referencing like a contractor in general.
I would agree
I
with
say
Felix. Go ahead, Carol.
I would just recommend that Terry and Ed and Fred are aware of the situation and the board's feelings, and they are pursuing this in the manner that they feel appropriate until they get more information. If board members want more information, I think that Terry can provide us with email updates as he gets more information. That's my feeling about this situation.
And I would agree with Felix that it can't hurt to let the chief of police know, and also let Stephanie Checo know that we believe someone dumped something illegal down the manhole. They have people on patrol that can drive by and maybe let all the contractors and subcontractors know. They're on notice.
I agree with Jane as well on this. There's nothing wrong with sending an email update to Public Works, to Stephanie, and whoever else, Jane, you think is appropriate with our current information. So
exactly, Carol.
Send the facts as we have them, okay?
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Jane. I agree. This is illegal, and we should call the authorities, because and it might turn up nothing, but at least we got a record made that something happened that's highly illegal. And quite honestly, we dodged a bullet. Had they been dumping something down there, we would have lost the treatment plant, and that would have been very bad for all of us.
We will do that.
All right. Yep. Last topic, and this is actually a good one. With Sora West, Sora West has been coordinating now with us, so that when they do a response to the borough, that they're also coordinating with us, so that all of our plans are going in at the same time in the same revision. So they did, through their solicitor, Rob Gunlock, reach out to us and say, hey, do we have an outstanding review? Yes, you do. Here it is. Well, we're trying to get back into the borough Can you update that and get that in? So they did that. And then we also issued, based on that resubmission, a review letter dated March 11th, so that they can address all the items that are outstanding for their revised plans. And yeah, so there's great coordination going on between the borough and the developers now. We got one trained at least, the 11th hour, but they're at least trained. That completes my report unless the board has any questions.
Fred, I do have a request. What is the date of the sludge test?
It's the first week in May. I don't have the actual date.
I'd like to be there if possible. I'd like to see the setup.
You are formally invited to come out and go in there, and I'm just trying to pull up the first week of May.
I want to see the setup.
It's the week of May 3rd.
I think it's the 4th or the 3rd or something.
Yeah, week of May 3rd. And we'll send you an email reminder out there, because they'll basically spend one day setting it up, and then they'll probably run for 3 days and then tear down.
Yeah, I'd like to come in and talk to them and stuff. It's just interesting to me. So Ed, I hope you can find me a hard hat.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you.
no, and what they do is they run different polymer mixtures and really try to fine tune it. You know, they're obviously trying to find the way that differentiates them from other manufacturers, but this gives us a good litmus test of 2 different manufacturers.
Great.
Any other questions by the board?
Nope. All right. Would anyone care to make a motion to accept the engineering report?
I make a motion to accept the engineering report.
I'll second that.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
All right. The motion carries. All right. Moving on to our operations manager report. Ed, you're up.
Okay. All right. Happy to report I finally have my license on the wall. After all this time of waiting for a response.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Last Monday, I started holding these plant operations meetings with John, our maintenance supervisor, Vinny, our collection supervisor, and Mike, our operator. And what we're doing every week is we're just trying to go over the week past and plan the week coming up. So everybody knows who's off during the week, who needs help during the week, and that's been well received, and it helps us keep a running list of projects that sometimes might fall through the cracks. So that's been going really well. Elk Environmental, they hope to have us on their schedule within the next 2 weeks to come out and haul out all those chemicals left over from the lab so they can safely dispose of them. We already spoke kind of about the utility water pipe. And that's all I have.
Ed, I'm just going to jump in. When I came in to sign checks today, you said that we are nearing in on our 1,500-day mark, correct? We're about 30 days out.
About
so.
35 days out.
Yeah, which would be quite an accomplishment, for us. Ed, did say that when we reached 1,400 days, we took pictures, and he sent it to all of us and posted it on our website and Facebook or whatever. But I guess, generally speaking, that when we reached kind of these milestones, and 1,500 consecutive days is a large milestone, that we acknowledge our employees for their, efforts, their conscientiousness. And so Ed and I discussed that he would begin looking into possibly, if we make that, fingers crossed, anticipated 1,500-day mark, that we would, honor the employees in some way. So Ed is going to be looking into that, which I thought was really great. And, that way we're not kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit when it happens.
Hey, Terry,
Yes.
Can you make a mention in your professional experience how big a deal 1,500 days is?
Sure. That doesn't happen. That's a long time. That's very special.
Ed, how many guys you have, how many people are working at the plant currently?
7 outside, 3 inside.
So that's 10 people working 1,500 days. That's almost working a decade worth of man hours.
Please don't.
One
forget-
person working a whole decade without ever having an accident.
Please do not forget the front office staff who also could incur injury.
That's the 10 people I'm referring to.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's
Thank
7
you.
plus 3.
All right.
But think about that. That's equivalent to someone working a decade without ever having an accident. That's
It's
pretty
huge.
big.
It's
Very
huge.
big.
Yep.
Uh,
So anyway, like I said, it's not really part of Ed's report, but he and I just discussed it this morning, and I thought it was worth mentioning.
Can we recognize?
Facilities ever reach 1,500 days? Do you know?
I'm sorry, Carol, I missed the first part of your question. Could you repeat it?
I was wondering if any of other Terry's facilities ever reached 1,500 days.
I'll venture a guess, no, that's never happened.
So anyway, I hope I.
All right. Well,
I just think it's
fingers
phenomenal.
crossed. We're
That's-
going in, knock on wood, or whatever we need to do.
Well, I know Ed has always been particularly attuned to our safety issues. I mean, he incorporated the hard hats and their color coding, which was a great idea. So it's just a wonderful achievement.
Absolutely. All right, Ed, I'm sorry, I kind of jumped in on your report, but I did want to.
Can we recognize that milestone in some manner? What do you think, Jeanine?
I'm sorry, Felix, what did you say?
Can we recognize this milestone in some manner for the people that work at the plant?
That's what I started saying, that Ed's looking into how we're going to do that. That was
Okay.
where the conversation started.
Oh, very good. I missed that point. Very good.
Oh, no
Excellent.
Well, do you adopt proclamations or via resolution? Just some thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. I would do something like that.
Okay.
All right. So, I mean, like I said, I think it's, probably again, fingers crossed next month will be 4 or 5 days away from that, that mark. But, just that we are thinking about it proactively at this point.
And that concludes my report.
Thanks, Ed. Does anyone have any questions on the operation manager's report?
I have a quick one, Ed. Was the meeting posted on the website tonight?
It should be.
All right. I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it. I just wanted to
The
double
link
check.
was there. That's how I logged on. I logged on from the link on the website.
Where'd you find it, Carol?
That's what I should have done.
Well, I'm
There's a
not
notice.
fast enough to be able to do a double screen, but I found it pretty easily on the website because I wanted to double check before logging in, and that's what I used to log in from the website.
Where do you
After
have
the-
to, where
I
you
can
find
check
it on the
after
website?
But it's under-
I think it's on the front page. I think you could link through. Oh, we have that little gavel, Shannon, and it says.
I think it's the
meeting.
legal notice. It
Yes,
says legal
yes.
notice.
There you go.
It says
That's
legal
why-
notice.
2021 board meetings, legal notice.
Yeah, legal notice. That's how I found a remote board meetings. I had to look for it tonight too.
Was there an email sent out with a link tonight's? Was there a link?
I did not send one. I could do
All
that
right.
in the future if you want, leading up to it.
Yeah.
Okay, no, maybe we can make it a little bit easier to find. It's there. I didn't find it right away. But, okay, that was my question. Thank you.
All right. Okay, any further questions, or would someone like to make a motion to accept the operation manager's report?
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Accept the operation manager's report.
I'll second.
All right.
Jane Flanagan, You're muted.
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith, Janine Riley.
Also, yes.
I'm sorry, Carol, did we get a verbal yes from you or just a thumbs up? We do.
I tried to verbalize. Yes.
There we go.
All right. Well, the motion carries. All right. Moving on to the ever exhilarating collections and maintenance report. Does anyone have any questions about that?
PA1s are down slightly.
All right. There we go.
Down about 100 from last month, but still double our average. But that's a good sign. We're slowing down.
Good. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Do I hear a motion to accept the collections and maintenance report?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
Janine Riley.
Also, yes. All right. And Terry, on to you. Interim Executive Director's report.
Okay, I have just one item. Mr. Hark, I believe you might be somewhat familiar with this. It was late last year that Mr. Hark discovered that we were overcharging him for two of his property. He owns about 4 or 5 properties in town. Those properties were 301 and 309 Angel Alley. We were charging 309 for 2 EDUs and 301 3 EDUs. And in both cases, we should have charged only 1. Fred did review the situation, issued his report. We sent him out a letter. The recalculation, the EDU recalculation letter to him late February, and he's signed off on that letter. So going forward, we're charging the correct number of EDUs. However, he has asked for a refund. He stated going back 10 years. According to our records, it goes back approximately 7 years. Shannon did the calculation, the difference between what he should have been charged versus what he was charged. That delta is $3,780. So at this point, Mr. Hark is requesting that we reimburse him the entire amount, $3,780. I want to add one recent development. It's just come to our attention within the last 48 hours that those properties are going to settlement. Mr. Hark will be selling those properties presumably on March 31st, so very shortly. Now, I have not had any recent contact with Mr. Hark. The last contact I had with him was on February 21st. I don't know. So this is what I have at this point in time. We do have let's say a written request dated February 21st from Mr. Hark requesting the reimbursement. I don't know if it matters, if his property is going to sale here in a few weeks. So this is a little interesting one. Mike, if he sells his property, do we still have to consider the reimbursement request?
He's asking, he's the payee, so he's asking to be reimbursed. So it's not necessarily something that would have to run with the property, because it's particular to him overpaying during that period of time. So even if he sells it, yes, he probably still has a claim against the authority.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. Is there a statute of limitations how far where he can go back on this matter? Is it the full 7 years?
2 years. Yeah, because this would be a tort action, not a contract action. So he could go back 2 years.
Okay, so he could go back 2 years.
Right.
So,
And Terry, we discussed this about a week or so ago, right?
Right.
yeah, I thought we talked about this a little bit in our staff meeting last week,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
so that was my recollection. That's kind of where I was going. We were talking potentially about a statute of limitations. I mean, at that point, being that he could go back 2 years legally to collect, right?
Mhm.
Then I think that perhaps it would be appropriate to offer him the refund of 2 years and avoid the legal fees or trying to get into a negotiation. But saying, we recognize that you overpaid. We also, however, recognize that there is a 2-year statute of limitation, and accordingly, we'd like to offer you 2 years of reimbursement. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that. You have any different thoughts, or Terry?
It's a great idea, Janine.
Where's Angel Alley?
Not too far from the plant.
It's between Hector Street and Spring Mill Avenue on Poplar, I believe. It's a really steep hill that comes from 3rd Avenue. And because what I'm questioning in my mind is, how many years was it apartments, and now we're just trusting him to say it's been 10 years that he hasn't had that as, they look like garages. They don't really look like homes. It's, so I think giving him the 2 years on faith that he said it hasn't been a multiple unit for that many years.
Well,
What's he
to me,
paying?
I'm sorry.
What is he paying in rental fees to the borough? Has he been paying for 1 unit there, or has he been paying for multiple? That would be something to check. I mean, I'm fine with giving them 2 years, but beyond that, I don't think it's really our responsibility.
We did verify with the borough that they don't have any record of a multiple rental on either of those. So we did check with them to verify or to see if they had previously had one. They have no record of it ever being anything more than a single rental on those 2 units.
Okay, thank you, Fred. But at some point, it must have been if he had 3 EDUs.
Right, how did the miscalculation occur?
Right.
The only explanation we got, Shannon, do you remember what year this occurred? It was like 2000.
It was July of 2013. There were no comments in the system at all, and I have no property file on those properties. So I don't know why they were changed, but that's when it was changed.
I think that's the time that Dave Bush went out and did the EDU audit back then. So that time was fairly consistent with that, I believe. That's the only thing we could think of, and it could have been a simple typo into an account.
But I mean, I guess on the other hand, there were bills that were being paid that
Yes.
would have indicated that it was they were being charged for 2 EDUs.
Yes, but so we changed the billing to now read where it shows the usage and the service fee.
Mhm.
Before, it didn't show that. It was just one lump sum. Yes, his bill went up, but it didn't indicate that it was a service fee that it went up.
And when did we make that change to our billing, Shannon?
I believe that was October was our first bill with that change, and that's when he
Okay.
called.
mean, I'm still comfortable offering the 2 years as the statute of limitations. I mean, if that's what he would get under the statute, Mike, if that's my understanding, then I think that that's fair.
Well, that would be the outside of what he would be entitled to. But I think what we discussed previously was, it seems reasonable to offer that because you'd be spending legal fees fighting every aspect of it. So it seems reasonable to offer that. But yeah, the outside of what he would be entitled to would be the 2 years, and he would still have the burden of proof to prove that none of this was his responsibility for not notifying us or things along those lines. So.
I know, Jane, you said you're comfortable with the 2 years. Felix, Carol, do you have any thoughts?
I'm fine with that.
So what is the total amount that we would owe him for this? You're saying 7 years? Is that the 3,700?
Correct.
Yeah, 3780.
For 7 years.
And all indications sound like it's our mistake on why this occurred.
Not necessarily. We don't know why it was. To me, it may have been a mistake. It may not have been a mistake. There's nothing to indicate either way. Right, Shannon?
I don't know about that analysis. If we can't prove the burden, I would assume the burden's on us.
The burden is not on us. That's what Mike just said. If he
The burden's
sues us,
not
the
on
burden
us.
is
The
on
burden's
him.
on him.
And the most he could go back in a court setting is 2 years.
And then he still has to prove that he properly notified us and all of the other things. And
2 years of repayment with no proof.
And as Jane pointed out, he has to prove that his records for the use of the property with us lined up with what he was telling the borough at the time. So,
and what I'm hearing is that the borough doesn't have any indication that that was a rental property. Is that an accurate statement?
No, they've always known it was a rental property, but only one unit.
One unit, that's what I meant.
It was only one unit.
It wasn't a multiple unit. And there's no indication that it looks like a multiple unit.
I wasn't in there. I think Vinny went in and did the inspection. I did not go into the physical facility.
Vinny did not physically inspect that. He went into the one on West 8th Avenue.
Okay.
So, I mean, did we physically look at the property that says, well, it could have been a multi-unit property, or there's no way it could have been a multi-unit property? Have we done that?
Well, that's what prompted us to reach out to the borough and ask about UNOs and occupancy, stuff like that. And they had no reason to believe that it was. And like Jane said, they're really tiny places. It's a row of, what are they, like 12 feet wide, maybe, if that?
Right.
Really tiny.
So we have no supporting documentation that would say anything else from the borough. We have nothing to show that it would be a multi-property. And yet we overcharge him by 2 EDUs. What we can do legally is one thing, but what we should do is the right thing. And I feel we owe him the money. I mean, it's $3,700. And the big picture, is it worth to shortchange somebody because we can legally, or to do the right thing because that's the moral thing to do? I'm saying we should settle up with them. That's my opinion. I mean, what's the other aspect of it? What's worse? I think image that we didn't do our job correctly.
Well,
and the optics mean something here.
I'll go back to, I mean, I think we have this issue of the police that we would be notifying on, again, something we think. I think we have to be fair. I think if we're going to call and we're going to say, hey, we think somebody did something here, legally, we're going to do what we can do here. I think it's
No,
a
I don't buy
balance.
that analogy either, Janine. That's two separate things. We're not talking apples for apples.
I don't know that we are.
We overcharge somebody based on the information we have. We have no other documentation or proof that it says otherwise. We owe
His
him the
bill
money.
went up and he didn't contact us for 7 years.
You're right. It's on him. You're absolutely correct. It burns
So
on
let's
him.
give him so let's give him what
So
we can give him. Offering him
we're
no
going to worry,
burden of
what's the
proof.
cost difference between 2 years versus 7? What are we trying to get away with 2 years, Terry? What's the cost difference?
Let me see if I can do a back of a napkin calculation here. Give me a minute. So figure about 70%.
Wouldn't it just be 45?
2,600. If I
Yeah,
did
so
that correct.
I think that it would be 45 times 8 quarters, and 90 times 8 quarters would be the 2 years. So it would be 1,080 for just the 2 years.
1,080 for 2 years, and then that's the 2,700 that.
Would be the difference.
$2,700.
So that works
The
out.
difference.
Yep.
I appreciate that. I don't think this is worth $2,700. I think we should just settle up. That's my vote.
Thinking about the goodwill versus the
Exactly.
ill will. I would say for that amount of money, it would be wise for us to settle up. And hopefully this is the only case we're going to run across where it was a miscalculation. If it doesn't match up to what the borough records indicate, I would be fine with that.
And I would expect Vinny to drive by tomorrow and do one more physical examination of that property to verify there's no doubt that that's not a multifamily unit. But pending that, I see no reason why that we shouldn't reimburse him and make him in whole. Just the optics alone for $2,700, it's not worth it.
Carol, do you have any thoughts?
I'm fine if that's what Jane and Felix thinks.
Terry, Mike, Lauren, Ed, comments?
Whatever the board's comfortable with.
Yes.
Whatever the board's comfortable with. Go ahead, Ed, you can say it now.
Whatever the board's comfortable with.
Anyone else? Fred, you want to jump in? Shannon, come on. Water's fine. I mean, I'm personally, I think it is what it is, but if that is what everyone wants to do, we can direct Terry to do that. I don't know that personally that's my opinion, but that's okay.
I agree with you, Janine.
I would ask that Mike draw some legal document up that he signs off on. This is it, final amount, he's satisfied, it legalese. And I could send it out to him.
We will certainly do that, Terry. Getting him to sign a release on this will
Yeah, I think
will be
That's a
pretty
necessity.
standard operating procedure. Yep, we'll get that together.
Thank you.
This is why we have local control, because we can make these kind of decisions and we're not so corporate that we try to save a couple years worth of EDU money. That's my opinion. Anything else on your report?
No, I'm good.
Do we need a motion for that? You're
I'm
muted.
Oh, sorry, Mike, you're muted.
No, they just directed Terry to do this, and the motion will be next month when we're signing off on the release and everything. Since we're gonna do this and it has to be done by a release, the board has to approve it. So nothing can be paid until the board approves the release next month.
All right, sounds good.
That's all I have, Janine.
All right, then would anyone like to make a motion to accept the interim executive director's report?
I'll make that motion.
Any seconds?
I'll second.
All right.
Jane Flanagan,
Yes. Yeah.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
and Janine Riley.
Sure, yep. All right, so I think that is the end for us, right? Is there anything else that we need to cover tonight? All right. Hearing nothing, do I hear a motion to conclude the meeting?
Make a motion.
I'll second. Yes. Yeah.
You're muted, Shannon.
You're muted, but I'll say yes.
We can read lips.
Try that again. Jane Flanagan,
Yes.
Felix Raimondo,
Yes.
Carol Smith,
Yes.
okay, Janine Riley.
Also, yes. All right, the motion carries. Not quite light, but we did pretty well. Okay, before 8.
Good night, all. Thank you.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night.
All right, be safe.
Have a good night.